On the morning of my wedding, a toddler in a tiny navy suit ran up to my fiancé and called him daddy. The ballroom went silent. My bouquet slipped from my hands, and all I could think was, I'm 29, I've never been pregnant, and my fiancé promised he didn't even want kids yet. If you think that's wild, buckle up, because I didn't just get blindsided at the altar. I got blindsided by a double life that had been rehearsed down to the calendar alerts on his phone. My name is Maya. I live in Austin, work as a project manager at a health tech startup, and I thought I was marrying the safest, steadiest man in the world, Ryan. He's charming, a regional sales director who travels a lot, and a guy who says grace before dinner. Our best friend group loved him. My maid of honor, Chloe, adored him. My mom said he was solid. For a year, everything felt perfect, until tiny things started to glitch. A mystery charge labeled Kind and Clover Doula Services. A disguised contact named Derek Plumbing who texted at 1:17 a.m. a Venmo payment from Ryan with the note prenatals. Each time I asked, Ryan smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, "Babe, it's for a coworker's baby shower. Relax." I wanted to believe him. But then my coworker Jamal found an Uber receipt on our shared iPad, Ryan's account, a drop-off at Canyon Oaks Apartments, a place he swore he didn't know. That was the night I started taking screenshots. Subscribe and tell me in the comments what you would do if you were in my shoes. So how did a wedding turn into a crime scene of secrets? It started with a rehearsal dinner toast, and the video I swapped in at the last minute. Because when I hit play, the first photo wasn't of us. It was of Ryan, cradling a belly that wasn't mine, and the room gasped. I didn't always live in detective mode. 6 months before the wedding, my life was spreadsheets, brunches with Chloe, and saving for a honeymoon in Maui. Then the doula charge hit our joint card. I joked to Ryan that he was the one nesting because our apartment looked like a showroom. Fresh flowers, scented candles, laundry folded into museum-level stacks. He laughed it off, said a teammate's girlfriend was using his card for the group gift. Long story. The next hairline crack was smaller but sharper. Ryan put his phone face down for the first time since we started dating. When it buzzed, he picked it up so fast he knocked over his water. Derek Plumbing, the notification read, and I remember thinking, why would a plumber text time at the back door? As if he heard my thought, Ryan said, "Emergency leak at the office. Be right back." I kept telling myself not to be that girl. But work made me better at patterns. I managed timelines, dependencies, little red flags that always mean something bigger. So I started logging any weirdness in the notes app, date, time, what he said, what didn't add up. It felt ridiculous. Until the Uber receipt. The iPad was on the coffee table. I was queuing a grocery order when the screen lit up. Your ride to Canyon Oaks Apartments is complete. Ryan was supposed to be at a client dinner across town. The receipt showed a 10:06 p.m. drop-off. When he walked in at 10:40 with a to-go bag and that easy smile, my skin went cold. "Dinner ran long," he said. "You look tired, babe." Was I paranoid, or careful? Was I wrong for what I did next? Because the next night, I followed him. I'm not proud of it, but I also don't regret it. I parked 2 blocks from Canyon Oaks, hard hammering like I was the one cheating. I kept telling myself I'd turn the car around, but then Ryan's SUV rolled past and slid into a spot under a flickering streetlight. He got out with a grocery bag and a bouquet, sunflowers, my favorite. I stared at those petals like they were evidence. He buzzed into Building C. My fingers shook as I opened my camera app. I snapped a photo of the entry sign, the timestamp, his silhouette against the glass. I waited. 10 minutes felt like a year. 15 made me nauseous. At 22, a woman came out to walk a dog. She was tall, messy bun, wearing one of those oversized panties I steal from Ryan's drawer, and she was pregnant. Maybe 7 months. She waved toward the lobby. A man's voice, Ryan's voice, called, "Avery, I left your vitamins on the counter." My ears rang. I ducked lower in the seat. The woman's hand rested unconsciously on her belly as she laughed and called back, "You're bossy." The dog tugged, and she shuffled past my car. The collar tag clanked, "Kona." I wanted to confront them. Instead, I drove home shaking, then sat in the dark living room and wrote every detail down. The next morning, Ryan brought me the same sunflowers. "Early rehearsal dinner peace offering," he grinned. "You've been stressed." He wasn't wrong. What if there was a perfectly boring explanation? I told myself I was gathering facts, not conspiracy theories. Then, 2 days later, Jamal pinged me at work, "Your guy's name is on a daycare emergency list." Long story. Call me. My stomach dropped. Daycare? For whose child? Jamal works in compliance. He's the guy who can find a red flag hidden under 3 layers of polite email. I called him from a phone room. He didn't waste time, long shot, but my cousin manages Silver Sparrow Daycare. We were talking about emergency contacts and the new digital sign-in. She joked about a dad who always wears cufflinks to pickups, Ryan D., parent 2. I asked the last name. Maya. It's his last name. Parent. The word landed like a punch. My brain fought it. Maybe he volunteered, maybe it was charity. Then Jamal added, they uploaded a profile photo for the app. It's him. With a toddler. I closed my eyes. Can you send it? My voice shook. He paused. You're sure you want this? No. Yes. The photo came through, Ryan in a gray suit, crouched to tie a tiny sneaker. The toddler, a little boy in a dinosaur hoodie, was grinning straight into the camera. Ryan's hand rested on the kid's shoulder with an ease I'd never seen on his face with my knees. The app label said Parent 2, Ryan D. Authorized Pickup. I screenshotted everything. I pulled our card statements again and highlighted every odd charge, the doula deposit, a crib from a boutique I'd never heard of, monthly payments to Canyon Oaks corporate housing. Corporate housing? Since when? I needed to confront him, but I wanted one more piece. I logged into our joint iCloud. Most of Ryan's photos were bland, receipts, airplanes, steak dinners. Then I found a hidden album called Home. My breath caught. The first video opened to Ryan's voice whispering, "Say hi to mommy, bud." The toddler, cheeks sticky with yogurt, squealed, "Hi, mommy." Off camera, a woman laughed. "Don't teach him to say bud, that's your word." Her voice was unmistakable. It was Avery. And then, at the end of the clip, the toddler looked past Ryan and said a quiet word that made my skin crawl, "Daddy." If I'd confronted Ryan right then, maybe the wedding morning wouldn't have exploded. But part of me wanted the truth to expose itself, not be argued into nothing. So I came up with a plan. It was probably petty. It was definitely dangerous. I was in charge of the rehearsal dinner slideshow, Maya and Ryan, a love story. It was supposed to be safe, childhood photos, our awkward first apartment, a shot of him proposing under a string of cafe lights. Instead, I built 2 versions. The sweet one, and the one I prayed I'd never actually have to use. Chloe, my maid of honor, helped me pick songs a week earlier. She's been my best friend since college, clinical social worker, queen of pep talks. But lately, she'd been distant. She canceled 2 dress fittings. She forgot to send me final RSVPs. When I told her I wasn't sleeping, she said, "You're overthinking. Ryan is a good man." Something about the way she said good made me feel like she was selling me a used car. The night of the dinner, the venue projector warmed up. Guests sipped wine and fetched refills. Ryan was charming grandparents and refolding napkins for restless kids. My mom squeezed my hand. "You did it, baby. You picked a good one." I stared at the remote in my palm. My heart insisted on the sweet version. My gut said otherwise. Was I wrong for what I did? I whispered to myself, and hit play on the second file. The first image filled the screen, Ryan, in a gray suit, tying a toddler sneaker. And then, before anyone could process it, the second slide appeared, a Venmo screenshot labeled doula deposit. The room murmured. Ryan's smile faltered. He turned to me, lips forming my name, just as the venue doors opened and a familiar voice called, "Ryan?" Where every glass in the room seemed to stop mid-clink. A woman stood in the doorway holding a small boy's hand. She had the tired glow of late pregnancy, the same messy bun, the same bantee. Avery. And the boy, dinosaur hoodie, cheeks flushed from the Texas heat, was the toddler from the Daycare app. "Ryan," she said again, confused now. "What is this?" The slideshow behind me flicked to the third image, a receipt for Canyon Oaks corporate housing. Then our guests' faces turned into a mosaic of shock, curiosity, denial. Someone whispered, "Is this a prank?" My mom's hand dropped from mine. Ryan moved like he was running underwater. "Avery, you weren't supposed to," he stopped, caught between 2 lives that had just collided in HD. He looked at me. "Maya, we should talk privately." "Do not move," I said, louder than I intended. "We're all going to hear this, right now." Avery's eyes darted from the screen to me to Ryan. The boy tugged her hand. "Daddy, I'm thirsty." The word sliced the air. Gasps. A chair scraped hard against the floor. I expected Chloe to be at my side. Instead, she was gone. My maid of honor dress hung on a chair nearby, her phone lay face down next to it, buzzing. I picked it up without thinking. The notification previewed a text from a contact named A. "You promised you'd stall her. Where are you?" A for Avery. My stomach twisted. Chloe knew. I looked at Ryan, then at Avery. "How long?" I asked. Avery's lips trembled. Ryan answered first. 2 years, he said. "Maya, please." The room erupted, my uncle cussed, my grandmother crossed herself, my boss stepped forward like an HR rep at a disaster drill. Over it all, I heard only the toddler's small voice, wondering again about water, like this was just another normal day. And then the sound that blew everything apart, my mother sobbing, "Is there a baby coming?" The rehearsal dinner dissolved into a crowd control exercise. My boss shepherded kids to the patio. Someone brought water for Avery. My dad glared at Ryan like he could hold him in place with rage alone. I stared at Chloe's phone in my hand as it buzzed again, and this time I opened it. I know. Not proud. But I wasn't in a moral courtroom anymore, I was in a survival drill. The thread with it went back months. Scrolling felt like tearing off strips of skin, lists of baby names, complaints about morning sickness, complaints about Ryan not leaving the fiancé yet, and messages from Chloe, pep talks, logistics, cover stories. "I'll keep Maya busy. The venue tasting is Friday at 6, you're safe then. He can stay at my place if you need space." My best friend, my maid of honor, had been running interference. Rage and grief hit at the same time. I looked up and found Chloe at the far end of the hall, white as her dress, frozen like a guilty chorus member caught in the spotlight. I walked to her slowly, past my aunt whispering, past Avery swallowing tears, past Ryan standing with his hands empty, like he needed instructions. "How long?" I asked again, to Chloe this time. She swallowed. "Maya, I wanted to tell you, I did, but..." "How long?" My voice made her flinch. "Since last summer," she whispered. "Avery is my cousin. She moved here after the breakup with her ex. Ryan was supposed to help with bills. It got complicated." Complicated. The slideshow behind us flipped to a photo I hadn't meant to show yet, a video thumbnail of Ryan and the toddler at a park, the boy on Ryan's shoulders, both laughing. The room quieted, and I realized I had a choice: stop this and go home, or finish it and change my life. "Who do you think is the real villain here?" I said to no one and everyone. Then my dad put a hand on my shoulder and said a sentence that changed my plan: "If you're going to do this, do it all the way. Do it all the way." Leave it to my dad to turn my heartbreak into a battle strategy. I nodded, wiped my eyes, and faced the room. "We're going to hear the truth, start to finish. And then I'll decide what happens tomorrow." I switched the slideshow to manual and chose the next file, screenshots of messages between Ryan and Avery. I didn't read them aloud. I let the timestamps and the "I miss US" and the "nursery looks perfect" tests speak for themselves. In one photo, Ryan's hand rested on Avery's pregnant belly, his wedding band glinting like a joke. My mom made a small sound, a wounded animal sound, and I almost shut everything down to protect her. Almost. "Avery," I said, gentler than I felt, "when is your due date?" Her hands shook. 2 weeks. "And the toddler?" "Not mine," she said quickly. "He's my sister's. I babysit. But Ryan's been there. A lot." Ryan finally found his voice. "Maya, I wanted to tell you. I kept trying to end it, but..." I laughed, a short, ugly sound. "You planned a wedding with me while playing house with someone else. You hired my best friend as your PR team." Chloe burst into tears. I was protecting Avery. She didn't know he was engaged at first. By the time she found out, she waved helplessly at the belly. It was complicated. Was I wrong for pushing forward? Maybe. But stopping felt like swallowing a live wire. I clicked again. The next slide wasn't a receipt. It was a calendar screenshot with a recurring event, school pickup, 3:30 p.m. My breath stuttered. Ryan stared at the screen like it was a stranger. And then a ringtone sliced the air. Not a guest's. The projectors. My laptop was connected to my iMessage. The name flashing big and bright on the giant screen, Derek Plumbing. Time slowed. The entire room watched as Derek Plumbing called my laptop, the name enormous on the white wall behind Ryan's head. I walked to the table and, with my hand shaking so hard the mouse slid, I clicked answer. A woman's face filled the screen. She was in a small kitchen, holding a phone at a slightly awkward angle. Her eyes widened when she saw herself on what was clearly a projector. "Oh my God. Ryan?" Avery turned away like she'd been slapped. Chloe choked on a sob. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. The little boy asked his eternal question about water. Ryan whispered, "Avery, I'm sorry." I said, calmly, "Hi. You've been texting my fiancé as Derek Plumbing. I'm Maya. We're at our rehearsal dinner." The woman's mouth opened and closed. She looked to her left, like maybe someone was feeding her lines. This isn't fair," she said finally. "He told me," she stopped. "He told me he was leaving you after the wedding." "Leave me after the wedding?" I don't know what sound I made, but I know my knees nearly gave out. Dad's hand materialized under my elbow. Jamal, from somewhere near the bar, said softly, "Got it. All of it." Ryan tried the only thing he had left. "Maya, I love you." The word love, in that moment, felt like a burglar handing me back my TV. "You love the idea of being adored," I said. "By everyone." The woman on the screen, Avery's cousin, I would later learn, hung up. The projector returned to the slideshow, doomed to loop back to picture number 1, a life I didn't have. I closed the laptop and looked at the faces of my future witnesses. "The wedding is off," I said. "But I paid for tomorrow, and I hate wasting money." A few guests laughed, shocked and grateful to have a script. "We're going to repurpose the day." Ryan finally snapped. "Maya, you can watch me," I said. And then I made the phone call that would turn my heartbreak into a headline in our small corner of Austin. I called the venue coordinator. "We're flipping tomorrow," I said. "No ceremony. We're hosting a community baby shower." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry, what?" "A baby shower," I repeated. "We have food for 120, a DJ, a photo booth, and a florist who already built half a wall of peonies. I'm redirecting everything to a women's shelter and 2 nonprofits that help single parents. Guests can stay if they want. Gifts will go where they're needed. The champagne can be mocktails and milk for the kids." Was I wrong? Maybe I was manic. But the room straightened with a purpose I could finally stand in. Jamal raised a hand. "I'll email the shelter now." My boss nodded. "We'll get corporate to match donations." Chloe stepped forward, eyes rimmed red. "Let me help," she said. "Please." I looked at her, at the friend who lied for months. "You can help," I said. "By standing at the door tomorrow and telling every woman who walks in that you knew." She flinched like I'd hit her. "Maya. Or you can stay home." She stayed. Later, I'd decide what forgiveness looked like. In that moment, I wasn't her judge. I was the project manager for my own rescue. Ryan tried to gather his people. "We can talk, we can," but his phone buzzed and his face strained. HR. It figured. I'd sent the expense reports to his company's anonymous tip line. "Corporate housing is fine, corporate housing for your affair is not." Was I wrong for involving his job? I asked the room, voice level. A murmur rose. No, yes, depends. It didn't matter. I was already past the line. I texted the DJ a new playlist. I texted the florist to swap the M&R monogram for a wall that said Village. And then I walked to Avery, who was quietly crying into a cocktail napkin. "Tomorrow is for you," I said. "And for every woman who didn't get the truth until it was too late." She nodded, stunned. Then she whispered something that chilled me more than anything Ryan had said. "He told me you knew. He told me you knew." The room rang with it. I wanted to laugh, but rage and humiliation chewed the sound into something smaller. "He said you were open," Avery continued. "That you liked being the main one. That you and Chloe were practically sisters, so it wasn't." I sound insane. "You sound like someone who was lied to," I said. "By an expert." Ryan's mouth opened and shut, a fish drowning in air. "Avery, do not speak," I said, the words coming out cold and low. "Not to me. Not to her." He obeyed, finally. I wanted to go home and crawl under a mountain of blankets. Instead, I stayed until the last guest left, signing vendor forms and redirecting deliveries and answering the same question 50 times, "Are you okay?" The answer was no, but the real answer was, I would be. As we locked up, Chloe approached, wringing her hands the way she always did before hard news. "I deserve whatever you say," she whispered. "I'm sorry." "Why?" I asked. She looked at her shoes. I felt responsible for Avery. She's family. She was alone. She swore he'd leave you. I kept thinking if I just kept you busy, he'd end it and you'd never have to know. I thought I was sparing you." "You were sparing yourself," I said. "From telling the truth." She flinched. "You were right. Go home," I said. "Be at the venue at 9 if you want to help." I didn't promise anything else. She nodded, tears shining, and left. Jamal waited by the door. "You did good," he said. "Messy, but good." "I feel like I blew up my life with a slideshow," I said. He shrugged. "Sometimes that's the only way to kill a lie." I got home past midnight, peeled off my dress, and sat on the bathroom floor until the shower water ran cold. That's when I saw it, a tiny blue notification on the counter iPad, the one linked to our shared iCloud. An unread voicemail. From Derek Plumbing. Timestamped 11:43 p.m. I pressed play with hands that had finally stopped shaking, and started again. Avery's voice filled the bathroom, low and rapid like she was trying not to wake someone. "Maya, if you hear this before the morning, I need you to know something. Ryan promised me he'd end it before your wedding because he was," she paused. "Because he was scared you'd find out at work." "At work?" I rewound, listened again. She continued, "He submitted something to expenses that your friend Jamal will definitely see. He panicked and told me if you found out through HR, it would ruin him. He said you were relentless, in a good way. He said you never let go of a thread." Relentless? For once, it didn't sound like an insult. The message went on, "I'm not telling you to protect him. I'm telling you because I finally believe you didn't know. And because he told me you can be cruel when you're hurt. Don't be cruel to me tomorrow. I'm pregnant and I'm scared." I sat there and cried for a woman I'd wanted to hate. Then I stood up and did what I always do when everything feels impossible. I made a list. 1. Cancel bridal hair/makeup. 2. Confirm venue flip with coordinator. 3. Draft post, invite donations, invite community. 4. Email vendors, keep food, repurpose florals. 5. Block Ryan on personal devices. 6. Send HR my compiled receipts. I slept 2 hours. When the sun slid under the blinds, I woke to a dozen texts from numbers I didn't recognize. The story was out, someone had posted footage from the rehearsal dinner. People I hadn't spoken to since college were sending heart emojis and popcorn gifs. A local gossip account had already labeled it the slideshow wedding. I brushed my hair, put on jeans and a t-shirt, and drove to the venue. As I pulled in, I saw something that made me grip the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. Ryan. In a suit. Waiting by the door. With my mother. My mother has always been a diplomat in a family of warriors. She believes in coffee and conversations and work it out. Seeing her with Ryan made my chest take in a new place. I parked and walked up slowly. "Maya," she said by way of hello, eyes searching mine. He wanted to apologize. Properly. Ryan stepped forward, hands empty again. "I deserve whatever you say," he started, borrowing Chloe's line. "Maya, I need you to believe I never meant to hurt you like this." "That implies you didn't know this would hurt me," I said. Which is a lie on top of a lie. He swallowed. "I was lost." "You were greedy," I said. "You wanted to be everyone's hero. It's not the same thing." He flinched. "I'll make it right. I'll pay back every expense. I'll sign whatever you want. Just don't ruin me at work." There it was. Not "I love you." Not "I'm sorry." Self-preservation. "You ruined yourself," I said. I just put the mirror up. My mother squeezed my arm. "Do you want him to stay for the event?" "No," I said. "He can donate from home." He nodded, like he'd expected that. "I'll go." He took 2 steps, then turned. "Maya. Was I ever the good man you thought I was?" I opened my mouth, and nothing came out. I didn't owe him comfort, but I am still me. "You could be," I said at last. "If you ever stop needing to be adored." He left. My mother watched him go, then turned to me with tears in her eyes. "I loved him," she said, and I realized it wasn't just my wedding I'd canceled. It was a future my family had already started living in. "I know," I said. "Come inside. We have work." By noon, the ballroom had transformed. The photo booth printed pictures that said Village Day. The DJ swapped our first dance song for a playlist of joyful noise. Boxes of diapers formed walls. Strangers arrived with strollers and gift cards and hugs. And then, at the entrance, Chloe took her place, looked me in the eye, and said to each woman who walked in, "I knew I'm sorry. The room was loud in the best way, toddlers chasing balloons, moms laughing with that sound that is half relief, half exhaustion, volunteers forming an assembly line of kindness. The florist built a second arch and tucked a tiny card into the leaves, for beginnings that start differently than planned. People cried under that arch all afternoon, me included. Avery arrived, small and brave, wearing a loose dress and a look of someone who didn't know whether to run or fall. I met her halfway and handed her a seat and a plate and my number on a sticky note. "For when you need a ride at 2 a.m., I said. She nodded, eyes glassy, and whispered, "Thank you for not destroying me with him." "I won't be cruel," I said. "But I will be honest." She winced. Honesty is new. Jamal worked like he was being paid, my boss wrangled donations like a seasoned fundraiser, and my dad manned the door like a bouncer with a soft spot for babies. Chloe stayed, and every apology she made seemed to sand an edge off the guild. Forgiveness wasn't a switch, it was a slow light. By late afternoon, my feet ached and my face hurt from smiling at strangers. I found a quiet corner and finally let the wave hit, grief for the wedding I'd planned, grief for the best friend I'd lost and maybe could partially regain, grief for a version of me who still believed everyone meant what they promised. Was I wrong for turning my wedding into a public service? Some would say yes. Some would call it a spectacle. But I watched a woman leave with a car seat she couldn't afford yesterday. I watched a teenage dad ask a volunteer how to swaddle, practicing on a doll until his hands stopped shaking. I watched Avery laugh for the first time. And then my phone buzzed with an email from HR, "We have received your documentation. An investigation is underway." I closed my eyes, took a breath, and prepared for the last part of this story, the part where I decide what kind of ending I want. 3 weeks later, I stood outside a small courtroom, papers in hand. Not divorce papers, we never got that far, but a petition to unwind the joint accounts, the lease, the dozens of tiny ties that hold two people together without a marriage license. Ryan didn't fight me on any of it. Maybe HR made that easy. Maybe he was tired. I don't know. Avery had her baby, a girl with a full head of hair and a birth cry like a war song. I dropped off a basket and held her for 5 minutes that felt like forgiveness in practice. We don't talk about Ryan. We talk about formula and sleep in which swaddles are scams. Sometimes grief feels like jealousy, and I refuse to feed it. That's my work now. Chloe is doing her work too, therapy, amends, the unglamorous project of rebuilding trust. We're not what we were. Maybe we'll never be. But she shows up. She stands next to me at Village Day 2, because yes, we kept it going. Once a month, the venue gives us a discount, vendors donate leftovers, and strangers become less strange. People still ask if I regret the slideshow. I tell them the truth, I regret trusting a man who didn't deserve it. I don't regret telling myself the truth in front of witnesses. I don't regret turning pain into a plan. Who do you think is the real villain here? Is it Ryan, for wanting to be loved by everyone? Me, for exposing him publicly? Chloe, for protecting the wrong person? Was I wrong for torching the wedding to light up the lies? I'm not sure there's a single answer. But I know this, I chose myself, loudly. And then I chose to make something useful out of the ashes. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and stay tuned for the next drama.